To jump right into it, Joseph, could you share with the audience a little bit about your story, how you got to where you are today and, closing deals and, working with local business owners?
Yeah, sure, of course. For a couple good years, I was doing sales in multiple different kinds of businesses, anywhere from a line of credits to term loans to bridge loans and all those kind of things. Um, it was a very, very different sale than real estate, especially to local businesses, mom and pops, things like that. That I got into, the better part of the past half a year, I've been doing that after, many years of trying every other sales job. Everyone always told me real estate was my thing. I don't know why it took me so long to get into it. But since I've gotten into real estate and since using Resquared, the system Resquared that you guys have, it's been pretty incredible. My success rate, both in regards to getting tenants in to see the place showings wise, which from what I've heard in my little experience from the people who are much more experienced than me, that's a hard beat to do consistently. Never mind weekly, as well as getting those sales and getting the people to sign the leases and making sure the leases go through properly from LOI and onward. Um, so let's see, what can I say about my experience in real estate using Resquared? Essentially, I, pick up the phone. Somebody came in, showed me what it was like. Getting on the phone to business owners. They have some of them have one shop, some of them have five shops. Some are making, crazy money. Some of them are, really run down places. And it's just about, for me, what it was is just getting that pitch, that first 10 seconds, into the phone call, making them feel, comfortable, making them feel like they're talking to to somebody who knows what they're doing and why they're on this phone call. That usually happens in the first 10-15 seconds. So I go straight up, and because of my company's business model, what we do is we're always going TI. We're always trying to get as much money into the tenants' hands as possible to make them feel as comfortable as possible. And that said, throwing in a couple of months of free rent, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months of free rent to make them, that's a good amount of money. 10, 20, sometimes if it's a bigger vacancy, 40, $50,000 in free rent. So if I communicate those two things, investment TI as well as free rent, that any business owner with half a mind immediately understands, well, that's something I want to talk to. Of course, I've noticed a lot of business owners, as I'm sure anybody listening, any experience has, don't know much about businesses, even if they've had a business for 5, 10, 15 years. It's funny to see how they're like, I've gotten more times than not, like, too good to be true. You're a liar, you're a scammer, get off the phone, or something like that. And then sometimes in a pleasant conversation, it would be more like, are you serious? Are you not joking? And I'm telling them, yeah, we have a really good business model that we're serious about making tenants feel comfortable coming into our shopping centers. Thereby, we're willing to give a lot of money, nothing back, no royalties, no monthlies, and give you guys a couple of months of free rent to get you guys into the store, to make you guys feel comfortable. It helps us, it helps you, it helps the community that we're trying to build in the shopping center. And that's why I get them on. That's why I get them there. For the most part, it's those follow-ups. I've had people who I've been in touch with 3 months, every single day, every other day, to the gatekeeper, to no answer, to five no answers in a row, to finally getting through the gatekeeper for them just to tell me, give me a call back in, 3 weeks. And you write it down every single time I get a business owner's name. I'm always asking for a business owner. They tell me, oh, he's not in right now. I'm like, oh, can you give me a name? And they, most of the time, God willing, will say, oh, Rick. I'm like, okay, cool. Is there a better time that I could contact Rick? Is there a better time that he's more free? Maybe towards the end of the day, towards the morning when the salon, if this person's not with a client. I write it down in the notes. In this case, the CRM that we use, the Resquared, write it down in my notes and call back. I put in a reminder in my phone. Okay, Rick from this set store set to call me back at 3 p.m. on the 3rd of June, etc. So I have a reminder for me. I'm always checking my reminders, my calendar. When that person said to reach back out, reaching back out. Ask them, a good time and move on from there. For the most part, that in a summary, the reason why I've had I don't know, let's say ranging from 3 to 10 showings a week, maybe some weeks a little bit less, some weeks a little bit more. Yeah, no, it's just because of those phone calls, 50, 60, 70, 80 phone calls every single day, hot leads, cold leads, prospecting. That's been the reason for my success, right? And closing up shopping centers. At this point in my short real estate career that I could say I've closed up a couple of shopping centers and looking forward to doing a lot more.
I'll pick up the damn phone. And that easier said than done. I'm curious, if you rewind the clock a little bit back to, the line of credit as a bridge loan, shit, what were some, maybe like the best advice that somebody gave you that helped, or what was something that were wrong about, right? Where maybe you thought things should be done one way and you learned maybe I should approach it a different way. Any learnings in that early experience of your career that helped apply to it?
More than anything, I would say it's the comfortability on the phone. I've always been a people's person. I've always loved communicating. My words were always my strong suit. It helps a lot for relationships. And I felt that, yeah, over the years there, it was about understanding what makes somebody feel comfortable on the phone. So I'm training somebody in right now. They're actually going to be listening in to this podcast, and I was telling them that based off the way a business owner answers the phone is the way I respond, my voice, my tone. Sometimes I'll get a business owner will be like, "Hey, I'm kind of busy at the moment. Like, I don't know what you're calling about, but." And then in those cases, my voice goes more serious. I speak straight to the point. I get their busy business owner. I make them understand, why I'm talking in a short line or two. And sometimes it'll be like a very jolly, go happy kind of person. Very much so, in a way that I respond like, "Hey," and I respond like, "Hey, how are you? This is Joseph calling from this and this shopping center, etc." And I really believe in your business model and everything like that. Kind of pretty much the way I communicate. That was something that I learned in my years of sales overall, is the way we speak to them and the words we choose to speak to every business owner differently individually. That could make the sell a month or two down the road. As every salesperson knows, ABC always be closing. So that's what I'm thinking about in the first phone call, second phone call. It's how they responded, how urgent they are, and based off that, I pick up the speed, my tone, and the words I'm deciding to use. Yeah.
What's the first thing you say when somebody answers? Is it, hey, is it, how are you doing? Do you mix it up? Do you tend to say the same thing every time? What's the first few words that come out of your mouth, or how does that look sometimes?
Interesting. Great question. Because like I said, was mentioning before, you're gonna be able to pick up a lot from the way they pick up the telephone. So ring, 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 and somebody answers the phone. Sometimes they'll be like, "Hello, who is this?" And you immediately know, "Hey, this is Joseph calling from et cetera, shopping center. We're willing to put up a good amount of money for you guys to come in. Do you think an expansion or relocation is something possible for you in the near future?" Um, so in the first 10 seconds, it's about picking up what the voice, their tone, who the person is, how they sound. Um, and then also the words. So I always ask, "Hey, how you doing?" Because just a lot of people get straight to the point, even if it's a rushed conversation. I'll try to, unless they're like clearly aggravated, or a business owner that's less interested in talking and think I'm a random broker, which I'm not. I'm calling from the ownership. I always ask, "Hey, how you doing?" And then they'll be, "Hey, how you doing back?" And sometimes they'll just be like, "Oh, I'm good. Can I help you with something?" And I'll be like, "Hey, God bless. I'm glad you're doing well." And I move straight into it um, in the first 10 seconds. And then, of course, in the first 10 seconds, it's all about the why the person why the person will think about you later tonight, why the person will think about anything you're saying in an hour from now. They could be getting 100 of these calls every day, and they have a business to run. A lot of these places, God bless, a lot of these people I'm calling have 3, 4 either businesses or locations running. So it's about, "Hey, I'm willing to give you said that most people are not able to do, with making you feel as comfortable as possible without saying those words, all just in eight to ten, 8 to 10 words in a line." And for me, in our business model and the way we work is, God, it's a really solid sale because I'm not, offering nothing. I'm saying, and I'm serious about my words. We are willing to put up a lot of money for you guys, nothing back. Even though it really does sound like a sales pitch. It sounds like I'm trying to scam someone, or it could be, but it's what it is. I'm willing to put up a lot of money for you guys to come into my center, potentially even up to 6 months of free rent. You think an expansion or a relocation like that is something that you can work with in the near future? And that's the way I've been able to get through to business owners that have a truck that are thinking about expanding into a retail location, to people who have 6, 7 furniture stores, each one 15 to 25K square feet. Um, and then after that, and then after those 10 seconds, it's a different pitch, but that's essentially for the first.
That's super helpful. That's super helpful. And I think a big thing for everybody listening to pick up on there are two things that I want to call out. One is like, if you don't believe in what you're selling, you should probably full stop right there, right? Because I think that it may sound too good to be true, but it's true. You live and breathe it, and you've seen, people's, find success at your properties and, create that reputation. So I think that's number one. And then number two is like positioning it for what's in it for them, right? It's not like, hey, Joseph, let's do a site tour next week, right? And jumping right into the site tour, which brings me to my next question, because this is like a masterclass of the cold calling stuff, which we haven't talked too much about, which I think the audience is going to really appreciate. Two questions in either, part one, part two, or, pick your flavor here, is what are some of the most common objections that you get? How do you overcome them? Or what is like the best case scenario that you want out of that call, right? Like, what's your vision for a successful call?
Nice. I like the questions. Okay, so starting first, the first question, some of the most common backlashes or no's, I guess we say, rejections, would be, first of all, straight off the bat, some people are just rude, and it happens. It happens in every sales, regardless of how kind we are or what we're selling or how much we're trying to help. They'll be like, "No, not interested. Get the hell off." Bye. In real estate, unlike some people work, I'm not trying to get somebody who's so clearly, after me telling them how much I'm able to help them, that they're completely not interested in anything I have to say. I'm not calling that person back. I'm not. I might disagree with a lot of people in sales, but God bless, my success and my confidence in what I've been doing speaks for itself. There's enough numbers to call. There's enough numbers to call, and there's enough people to get through. So if someone's rude on the phone, it's not somebody you're gonna have to be dealing with this person for the next 5-10 years, or if they're in the plaza. It's not somebody I want in my shopping center. It's not somebody I'm looking forward to having another conversation with in the coming weeks, months, etc. That's the worst kind of rejection. A lot of times people will be like, "Well, I don't know about that shopping center. I don't know how I'm going to be able to pick up the staffing. I have a hard time as it is with the staffing right now. That location seems a little bit far for me." So based off the words they say, it's kind of hard to describe, but every word, like I said, means something else when the business owner is speaking and they're trying to concise whatever they're thinking into a message. So for like that kind of phone call, I would tell them the kind of thing. Well, first of all, we are right now working with the city, which in most cases we are, almost every case we are, to try to revamp the community. So we're looking for a place specifically like yours that, let's say, is a coffee shop. I've been speaking to a lot of people in the area, and I know they want a nice, cute coffee shop. Now, while this shopping center may not look as nice as it is as you're saying, we are putting in the money consistently right now to revamp the entire shopping center, help the community. The government is helping us, as well as for you. We are willing to make sure that you guys have the 6 months of free rent to get your name out there, to make sure the place is as nice as it can be, as well as make sure it's as stress-free as possible, so that you're not going to really have to be thinking about too much. You're saying you're letting me know about staffing. Well, as you know, as a business owner, you take one person from your current location, you bring them there, and you slowly work it up. If you feel like that's something that's too much for you to be able to handle right now, I understand. And right away, the person's like, "Hold on a second, I'm a business owner. I know how to. I've been running a business for 10 years. I could scale up." So in general, a lot of times people will say, those kind of things, and it's also about me. It's also about me gauging how much they know, and if this kind of person, regardless if they've never had one shop or they've had 5 shops, are able, trust themselves to open up another shop. And more important, so for the first question in summarization, it's when it comes to rejections, somebody on the phone could be like, I don't think so, as well as say, I'm super interested. And both of those could go the opposite direction, meaning the person who said, I'm interested, you're able after a minute or two of speaking to them to tell they don't know what they're talking about. They just, it sounds like something was too good to be true and they took it in their lap. And somebody who has, 5 to 10 businesses and they're like, right now seems like a hard time, then you write it down. Okay. And then you ask them, why is it a hard time? Is it maybe a few months? Right now you have a lot on your plate. And then they give you some more specifics. And then you write down, okay, I completely understand. You write down the notes they told you. Is it okay to call you back in a month then to see, check in how you're doing? And I say, yeah, of course. I would appreciate that actually. Many times people will be kind and nice when you tell them, I will be thinking about you for the foreseeable future. You don't worry about it. And that's what they reminded when you speak to them again a month later. This is Joseph. They're like, oh, hey, how you doing, Joseph? And that's actually how I closed, the last deal I closed, the dude. He answered me. He was excited about it. In the first phone call or second phone call, he was like, yeah, everything sounds good about what you guys are talking about. Let's talk about LOI and moving to lease. Ghost me for 3 weeks, something like that. Not a single. And then I call him back every few days, every 3-4 days, something like that. 4 weeks later, it was like, yeah, hey, I'm so sorry. I live on a farm. I barely ever have phone connection. Let's talk about the lease. And within a day or two, that lease was signed in an inbox. So it really is about, when it comes to people who answer backlash, it's about reading what they're trying to say behind the words. If it sounds like they're a business owner who can't handle it, or a business owner who maybe right now is not the right time. And you had a second question?
And real quick on that guy, and then I'll hit you with the second question.
Mhm.
That was such a thorough response. When he, because I think your point is so accurate where, somebody can say, I'm all interested or I'm not interested. It, either can turn into a deal or not, and I think there always needs to be a little bit of healthy friction in a sales process or it's not real, when you called, were you leaving voicemails? Like, how would you, or did you just keep trying them, and like every other day? And tell me more about that, and how you balance that follow up without driving your stuff crazy.
Okay, great question. So that every person that I'm emailing, sending a text, leaving a voicemail, and calling will be dependent on how hot of a lead it is for me. If it's a lead like that in the first conversation, I received, such positive feedback. We spoke for 10, 20 minutes about a really, like, they're asking the right questions, what's the square footage? How much is the TI going to be? Is it triple net, etc.? Those kind of right questions. And then they ghost me. I'm going to be texting them every 2-3 days, emailing every 4 or 5 days, leaving a voice, using all of those tools as much as possible. If it's a kind of cold lead, I will always try to send email, send text, leave voicemail. I do those 3 things after, obviously, the phone call, regardless of anything, regardless of the cold lead or not. If I get a response or feedback from the business owner, from the potential tenant, that's what makes me make a whole cadence for myself. Like I have a list here of specific leads that I email every 3 days, and then 4 days later I send another email, and then I'm texting the person, if I have his number, once every 3 days in between, while of course every few days I'm calling the person. So as much as possible to phone call, number 1, best. Texting if you're able to get through to their cell, number 2. And then email and voice. I've seen more people respond to emails and then leaving voicemails, but also some positive feedback from leaving voicemails as well. So that those are the 4 tools essentially I'm using and consistently hitting back as much as possible whenever.
Got it. And last follow-up question on that is, in the text message itself, is it, hey, Joseph, just following up with you. Are you sending them, like, is the pin on which text message it is? Is it really pretty, kind of short and sweet every time? What do you find in those follow-up message? What's the right kind of information to put in there? How short or long, or, I'm curious, or is it mostly just kind of staying tip of mind for them?
Always short to the point when it comes to text. When it's an email as well, I try to keep it short, minimum to a few lines. I've noticed business owners I was in touch with, big corporate people from Arby's, from Sonic, from Dunkin' Donuts, from Jimmy John's, these people, and both speaking to them on the phone, I get, using a couple of different platforms to get to their phone number as well as their email address. I find that everybody prefers short to the point. You send a whole brochure of, like 4 to 6 paragraphs and 5 different attachments. It doesn't matter if you're the president of Starbucks or you're a single run mom and pop. Nobody likes that. Straight to the point. You make it sound like you're a human being. That's why it's always a great idea to try to make some sort of bond, some sort of personal information, something that you could go back to in the next text. So I would have a client, a potential tenant, who wouldn't respond to a text or wouldn't respond to a phone call, both. And then a week later, after I send them a text, I'd be like, "Hey, I wanted to tell you about something super cool that happened. That some guy last week or two, he was telling me, we were talking about going on honeymoon. I was planning on going on a honeymoon with my wife that I just got married to, and he mentioned me, oh, you should maybe go to Marco Island, here." And that's and a week later, he didn't answer my phone call, text, email. The only thing I responded to, the only text I sent him was, "Hey, I have something funny for you. You're gonna love." I was on the phone with my mother-in-law. This is a true story that happened. I was on the phone with my mother-in-law, and she was like, "Maybe you guys should go to Marco Island for your honeymoon." And I told him that story, and he sends me back, like, "Ha ha ha, LOL, that's hilarious." And then right after that, he himself shoots back with, "Sorry, I've been so busy with et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Let's have a conversation tomorrow sometime about what we were talking about."
Wow. I want to pause for a second because everybody listening, you are listening to, I don't know if anybody's a rap music fan, and you are listening to a master at work. That was fire, dude. Like, I think that what's so crazy about that is, one, just how organized you are and making sure to follow up. You said that earlier in the conversation, right? Follow up is everything. But I think that you really have mastered the art of staying in touch with them while also making it relevant. I mean, that is amazing. And congrats on the marriage as well. And to circle back to, our the question earlier, which is, I'm a big believer in kind of, vision. And before you get into any meeting, what do you want it to end up at, right? What's your mindset and your vision of what's the, besides someone saying, "Sure, I'll give you $100 million" or whatever, right? Like, what step are you trying to get them to take next? Because I think a lot of people jump to trying to get straight to the deal, right? What is the best kind of end result of a call in Joseph's mind?
Okay, so the first step from cold call to making it a hot lead is getting them interested. And I have two different templates: a cold email template, just a few lines. "We're willing to offer this. Are you interested in relocating or expanding?" And then I have a hot lead. A hot lead email is somebody who showed interest. I send them more details on maybe a little bit of pricing, maybe a picture or two, nothing too much of our shopping center, and then I move on. The most ideal phone call goes in a way where it's not just like, "Oh, sounds good, perfect." Even though I did close one deal that the guy was like, seemed like he was in a different world, and then I had a lease a month later. He signed it and he has the money and he's going for it. So it worked out that time. But for the most part, it's about them asking the right questions. They said, "Hey, that sounds like a good opportunity." He understands why we would, as shopping center owners, want to give a lot of money to somebody. He gets, "Oh, that helps you guys, it helps me, TI for the future, as well as free rent." And they ask, "Okay, I mean, that sounds like a good offer." But then they ask the right questions. "What's the square footage you guys have available for me? Does it support my business model? Maybe does demographics of your shopping center work with my business model as well? What's the median range salary there in the shopping center? Is there, and this is something that, these are all questions that I should already know and have learned the onboarding when I took on a shopping center, which I do. I spend a day or two going through information of these shopping centers. And then, like, I know, okay, this person's like, he has a pizza shop and there's an Italian restaurant, a block away. It's a fancy Italian. Can a pizza shop work when there's a fancier Italian restaurant like that? So ideally, it's they ask the right questions. After I answer them the right questions, they're like, "All right, I would love to go see the place." That's essentially the next step. After you have a hot lead, it's the showing. So I get them in touch with my man on the ground there. I get them for a showing. After that showing, it's about the showing itself, making sure they're comfortable in the showing, even though I'm not there in the city. Giving them a call as soon as possible during the showing, after the showing's over, seeing where their mind's at. And ideally, from there, it's going into LOI. You start talking details of the LOI. Most of the leases, I'm with mom and pops. Almost everything I do, most of the leases I've done haven't been any LOI. They don't even know what an LOI is, or to even think about that. We just talk about the terms of your lease. Okay, it's going to be first month deposit. This is going to be your rate it's gonna, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You get their name, their information, their email. They have our lawyers draw up a lease, send it to them, let them know it's there, and they sign it, send it back. It's yet to happen to me that whole process happened within 24 or 48 hours, but that's the ideal. That's definitely the ideal.
Love it. A couple of things to point out. One, when you hear those buying questions, one question I like to ask people, and obviously in sales, you don't want to create your own objections, but sometimes when it smells too good to be true, it's like, and Joseph, like, if you were not to move forward, why would you not move forward, right? Or if you were to not buy this product or this service or this lease or whatever, and see what the true objection is. And I also wanted to make another point, which is the rude piece, which I think is such a great point where one, I think you, about such thick skin that, I'm sure, you're human and it bothers you a little bit, but you're able to kind of roll with the punches. And something that I always remind myself is twofold is like, one, we're just interrupting people all day long. It's like, don't take it so personally when you're the one interrupting. And I think I always remember what my mom would tell me when you have that, jerk in school, in middle school or whatever, right? It's like, they got something else going on in their life, and they're projecting it on you. So how do you deal with rejection like that? Do you just kind of, you have big enough skin, or how do you kind of work through the people telling you no so often?
So I don't get no so often. No, I'll say no. It does. Okay. So getting a no doesn't bother. Wow, like, okay, that's just one more no closer to a yes. That doesn't. I don't think about that. I'm making 50 to 100 calls a day, or however much it is, and I'm just going on to the next number. Like, there's no reason to. What does get under my skin, which is something that in life I've had to learn in general, not necessarily only to do with sales, is like we mentioned before, when someone's rude, when someone is, you're kind to them on the phone, you have a pleasant, yeah, we're bothering them. You're right, we're in the middle of their day, but you could be like, I've gotten more times than not someone saying not interested, thank you very much, bye, than somebody who is like, why are you calling me at this time? In those moments, it does get under my skin a little bit. I am human, and when someone's like disgustingly rude to you on the phone, it just like, why are you in business? How do you have a successful business if you're super rude on the phone to people calling, especially if you're able to have a minute conversation, and after they understand that you're a human who's not just trying to sell them crap, they still are like that. It gets to me. I think about it for 10 seconds, I take a breath, I breathe it out, and move on to the next phone call, because even though it gets under my skin a little bit more, there's no reason to let it sit, because I'm just trying to get, like I said, to the next yes. So if you know what I'm saying, and between me and you, and I think I could speak on behalf of the majority of the world, but it's up to whoever's listening to agree or disagree with that. We have so much more to be aggravated about, worry about, and think about when it comes to problems, both in work and in all parts of our life, than for one person who had a 30-second rude phone call with you. So that's why, as much as possible, yeah, take it out, say a comment, jump up for a second, breathe it out, and move on to the next phone call. You're never going to remember them tomorrow for the rest of your life.
Amen, bro. I love it. Any other tips for somebody out there that's listening that, maybe doesn't have near the reps on the cold call stuff, but knows that they, are a few thousand cold calls away from, whatever they want to do in their life? Any other tips you would share with just salespeople in general of how to be more successful in serving local business owners?
First of all, don't stop with the follow-ups. Don't stop with, more importantly than anything, the phone calls. That should be the majority of people who are prospecting for new leads, for hot leads. Somebody recently told me who's been in the industry for 50 years. They were like, I heard all too often there's so many young people who try to stay at email blasting and try to perfect their emails, which I need to get better at, honestly. I need to speak to you guys and your team of how to really, because I've seen some amazing success, specifically using Resquare when it comes to emails, email blasting for responses, which I haven't had as much success with. But essentially, it's not stopping no matter what with those calls, with the follow-ups. No matter if somebody showed even a little bit of interest at one point, keep calling them until they tell you to your face, no, I understand everything you're selling me and I still have no interest for a whole bunch of reasons, etc., and move on. So I would say more importantly than anything is making sure you write down every piece of information that everyone's saying, and you're following up with them via phone call, right? And then of course using the other tools, text, voicemail, email. That's one big tip. Another big tip is something that and every person in sales goes through the hard way, is that the rough patches, the times when, especially for people maybe like me who are in the beginning of the real estate career, you could go 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4, 5 months. Some people, they say 6 months in real estate to even start getting some sort of pipeline before you close anything. Um, it will come if you put in the effort every single day in and day out, and you're actively always trying to grow and learn from everyone around you and find new ways to grow and reach out to people. You will end up selling, you will end up growing. And if you're selling a product, you're not working for people who are scammers or have something bad. But if you're selling any kind of product and you keep on pushing, you will end up being successful.
Let's go, bro. You got me fired up. And I'm definitely, I still have my hotel booked at the end of next month, so we gotta make
Yes,
sure.
sir. I was thinking about that today. I was thinking about that, talking to my office, thinking about some plans, thinking about some things. I'm very much looking forward.
Me
Yeah,
too.
whoever's listening, if you're lucky enough to get in touch with this man, Tyler, I guarantee it's worth it. It's worth it for many reasons.
I appreciate you, Joseph. You're the man, dude. I'm
Thank you,
so
man.
super grateful for you making time for me, man, and excited to come hang out with you later next month. So thank you again for your time. You've been awesome, bro, and I really can't say thank you enough.
Hey, Tyler, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This was amazing.